All right, Fred, let's share some real life experiences of this phenomenon of an adult starting a relationship with deception, lies, hiding things, secrecy. Share with us. What do you got?
So I got a few, unfortunately. One that comes to mind is a person who claimed to have a specific profession and to be working as a copywriter, and just was going through a bit of a dry patch work-wise. And after quite a long time, about a year of having no work and so living off my income, I started asking questions. Just ask, in terms of copywriting, like, how much work did you exactly have? And turned out the person had had like one or two mandates in their entire life. So they improvised themselves as copywriter. I assumed they were running a business. I assumed they were paying for the bills, but they'd had like two one-off mandates, and that was it, which is not, to me, is not being a professional copywriter. It's being someone who's had two one-off mandates.
Hmm. They're
Um,
dabbling in it. But wait, how was it presented at the start? I mean, was there a false representation of what that would like, how it was sold
well,
to you, like how she spoke about it?
yeah, I'm a professional copywriter. I've been doing this for a few years. It's like,
Wow.
okay,
So,
your,
so
your
you,
first
wow. Yeah.
Your first mandate was a few years ago, but you haven't actually earned very much money. Turns out you're living off your parents' income or some other things or whatever. So when the person moves into your life, you'd sort of assume that both people will contribute somewhat to the expenses, as opposed to you will contribute to all of my expenses because I don't want to ask my millionaire parents for money because it's embarrassing. So you go, well, I wouldn't exactly have signed up for this. Like, if I'm sponsoring the lifestyle of the daughter of millionaires because she can't be bothered, I can't afford that, and that's not cool. That's not okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
wow. And that you're right. And that information being withheld or misrepresented definitely had an impact on you as a another person in that relationship financially, which is finances are a huge part of a relationship.
Absolutely, it's a massive drain to the resources. So it's one thing to help someone out for a few months. It's something else when it starts lasting a lot longer, and the person wants some money to be able to go out, and also, of course, has a drinking problem, as the case would be, and expensive taste, and so on and so forth. So, the impact over time is not negligible, and the other things one can do with the resources.
Yeah, that's a big example. Like to really start, like to really have a false image of what the finances are going to be. Like on you in your mind are thinking, okay, so I know my financial situation, and she's got to be making at least this, so we can, food expenses, rent, or whatever, like other expenses, and then to find out that, oh, wait a minute, there's actually close to zero or zero. That's a very different picture to what you were signing up for.
Absolutely. And always having excuses to not go and earn money. Like, in my mindset, if you move somewhere and you don't have clients, go and work at Starbucks or McDonald's. It doesn't matter. Anywhere where you can earn more than nothing so you can contribute something,
Exactly.
instead of having excuses and always having reasons to not go and get a job. I understand it's not fun working at Starbucks. However, it's a way to contribute. And if you're not willing to do that, it means basically being an extra weight on the person's life as opposed to contributing to a better situation.
Yeah,
The
exactly. Start earning some bucks at Starbucks.
exactly.
Start bucks. Start earning bucks.
Exactly. Start with something. I've seen that
Yeah.
quite a few times. There's another scammer who claimed to be some kind of super genius, but never earned any money. And at one point, I just said, I confronted him and said, "You claim to do all of this, but you've earned zero in all the years I've known you. You'd have you'd be better off working at McDonald's. You'd earn more money." But instead, the guy goes around scamming people and borrowing money, pretending that he can pay them back, but he never does. He just disappears.
Wow. Yeah, that's definitely a deceiver, a fake person there.
Yeah.
So let me share with you I got a doozy. Okay, so I got to share with you this one, and this baffles the mind because it definitely baffled me for many months. So so my previous marriage in America, so she's my ex-wife, not my current wife. I want to make that clear. So we dated over the Zoom, like remotely on the video for about 6 weeks, and then that was going good. So she invited me to come to America to continue the dating in North America, and I went. And upon arriving to America, we dated for a further 8 weeks, and then we decided to get engaged. And in the dating process, she said, "Yeah, like I dated some guys, and there's one guy that I dated for a while from Brooklyn, and so she made it out like she was dating. A very normal kind of situation. Nothing really um, raised an eyebrow. And then when we were engaged, one day she said to me, "Oh, hey Josh, like if I give you some email addresses, two email addresses, can you just sign into them, change the passwords? You know, these email addresses I was using for dating, I really don't want to have any connection with them anymore. Just change the passwords." And for me, that's really closing this door. And I was a bit kind of weirded out by that she asked me to do that. I thought it was a strange request, but then I also thought, okay, well, fine, like no problem. So she gave me the logins and I went in there and changed the passwords, and I didn't think anything else of it ever. So then we get married, and then a week or two into the marriage, her phone starts ringing, and I see that she's very uncomfortable with the number that's calling her. And I'm starting to think, what's going on? Like, who is this that's contacting you? And it turns out that one of the guys that she was dating, they dated, and then she says dated, but really they were just playing around with each other sexually. And then um, she stopped with that activity, and then this guy basically, started to, I guess, manipulate her, and apparently went off and married someone else, which I don't even know if that happened or not. And they're having this email relationship with this guy that went off and got married. Now he was trying to keep her on the side as like a bit of a side project, and just very manipulative and stringing her along, really taking advantage of her, and like emotionally. And he was contacting her now in the marriage, and he didn't know that she had gotten married. And this was like in the second week of marriage now, that this guy's like basically harassing her, which, I thought that they had dated a year ago, but apparently she stopped contact with him like the day that I arrived in America. So that was surprise number one. And then this is the part that just makes no sense. I went back into these emails that she gave me access to, and I had over a year of inappropriate communication between them with this married guy and her. It was basically just like a forbidden relationship. And I'm like, I didn't know about this. Like, I wouldn't have committed to this marriage knowing that you were involved in this. And also, why did you give me these emails and just left everything there for me to see? Like, it was all there. She didn't delete one email. Is that
Well,
baffling to you?
no, not at all.
Like, imagine your parents go away for a weekend and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna have a party. My parents are gonna flip out if they know that I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have a party. I'm gonna invite all my friends, and you know what? I'm not going to clean up anything from the party. There's beer bottles everywhere. Someone threw up on the floor. I'm just going to leave it there. There's a big mess. I'm not going to clean up a single thing. Like, what type of person does that? Like, if you're going to play up, like, at least try and cover your tracks, right? So I thought of two reasons why a person would do that. Reason number one would be that they just don't want to deal with the mess. So they would rather just, I guess, cop the backlash than to have to deal with the mess that they created. Option number two is that they don't actually care, or maybe they even want the parents to get angry with them and punish them for having this party to validate some form of like victim narrative. And that was option number two. But like, why would a person do, like, I don't know, is this baffling too? What would you say?
So it doesn't really baffle me in the sense I've seen this type of thing. I think it's
Mm.
testing. Let me see how far I can go, what I can get away with. If he says nothing, I know I can keep pushing things further. And then if something happens, then I can always play the victim and say, you're just being jealous as part of the past. And, that I think that's a really common one is you can't blame me for past behavior because that's part of the past. You're just being jealous. And that's, we see it time and time again. I understand that to some extent, and it's a low resolution explanation. There's a lot to be saying about understanding the past, knowing who you get to meet. And like we said before, if there's past behavior that leans a certain way and there's no valid reason for things to change, don't assume they're going to change. And that's, a very good reason to think whatever they did, if that doesn't work for me, why would they have changed? And if they don't give a good reason, they probably haven't. And in this case, like you say, it could be testing you, could be making you jealous, could be winding you up, could be making you feel insecure, could be giving you making you not sure of who it is you actually married, so destroy the trust. Sometimes it's self-sabotage. Sometimes it's just cruelty. When people say, I'd like to look through your old messages or old emails to other people. Why would you do that? What are you trying to, like, you want to scratch an itch, or you're a bit of a masochist? Obviously, you're going to see things that will seem weird because it's me communicating with someone else, even though it's part of the past. I'm not sure how that's helpful. You know, what is the goal, and what are healthier ways to achieve the goal? If it's trying to get to know you, it's very different to I'm a bit of a voyeur. Or if someone says, well, I like the idea, that turns me on. It's like, well, that's something completely different.
Mm.
And even there, it's worth, before saying, okay, let's do it, it's worth digging. Let's understand what it is you're trying to achieve, if that's healthy, and what's the best way to achieve it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you're bringing up some very good points. And one thing that I discovered, in that relationship, and also particularly how that relationship ended, was that it was coming from a place of just total avoidance, like avoidance of the situation, avoidance of self-responsibility. And I got that impression also when, she was getting harassed by this guy. I'm just like, aren't you going to do something about what's happening to you? And she's like, he's harassing me. What am I meant to do? It was always, I can't do anything. I'm not dealing with it. Total avoidance. And this really got set into concrete when I was leaving that relationship. I was walking out the front door towards my car that was packed. I was leaving, and she walked past me and didn't even acknowledge my existence. Just total avoidance of, I would even say, like a significant like dissociation. Like, this is not happening. I'm not going to choose to acknowledge this, and that's how I'm going to deal with it. And I think that's really what it was. It's, I'm going to just push this away, and I'm choosing not to deal with it. And it was like a coping mechanism of just abandoning things and not dealing with it and avoiding it. And but it presented as like a severe dishonesty and lying, hiding things. And I remember I said to her, I'm like, I wouldn't have traveled all the way here to even date you if I knew that this was happening while I was on the plane. Like, I wouldn't have done it. And it caused severe trust issues. Like, how can you trust such a person? But I saw at the end that it was actually obviously a mental health issue of just avoiding things to the extreme, not being able to deal with just life. And in this case, it was a abusive and manipulative married guy that she was getting taken advantage of. And yeah, just wasn't able to deal with it. So just sweeping it under the rug and just kind of pretending like it's not there, which is a form of deception and lying.
Yeah, I think so. As thinking about this, there's some patterns that we see to a large extent, which is not taking responsibility, blaming others, and feeling like I'm just a victim in this. Yeah, at the same time, so the guy was married and abusive, and she was aware of the fact that he was married, and it can be, how would I put it, convenient to present ourselves as being just the quote unquote victim in this,
Mm.
when there's some level of participation,
Oh yeah,
some level of knowing. So sort of more than zero and less than 100.
100%.
But this is also, you touch upon a point that's really important, which is clarity regarding timelines. When someone says they're single, for how long have they been single? So I remember another story where someone, claimed to be single, but then claimed that the last intimate moment they had with their ex was the same day they were leaving the country. Go, so you slept together and then you decided to break up, but you don't decide to break up just like that. So, oh, but it took a while. That's when I really realized. It's like, so you're breaking up with the person, but you still sleep with them, and then
Yeah.
you leave the country.
Let's just have sex on the way out the door.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that was 2 weeks ago, but you claim this is completely clear. Then the person went back to the country and said, "Oh, by the way, are we being exclusive?" Which is a rather strange question to ask when you say, "Let's plan a future together." And then it takes a while to start thinking. When you ask that question, it's not a random question. When you ask that question, it seems like somebody asked you out on a date. So, oh yeah, that happened. Okay. And it seems like you were willing for that date to be more than just let's go and have coffee, but actually end up in bed. Yes, pretty
Mhm.
much. Okay. So that either someone that you just met, so you led the conversation up to the point where it seemed appropriate to do this, which is one issue, or it's someone you knew before who is sort of reigniting something, someone you knew before. Okay. So it's either someone you knew before where the situation was pretty much tethering with the or towing with the line where you can get intimate, or someone with whom you were already intimate. someone with whom I was really intimate. Okay. So the person with whom you broke up, how clear are they that you broke up? Well, not very clear. Okay. That doesn't really sound like a breakup. That sounds simply that you were dating the person who was looking forward to having you back and jumping back into bed with you, which is very different to I am single. All of the past stuff has been cleared out. There's nothing lingering. Like I've cleared that out. I understand you meet someone, you've got lingering things. Okay. You can be honest about having lingering situations that you want to tie up before anything happens. Fair enough. Or if you didn't do it, to say, I got a few things I need to tie up. But, a big question is, since the time when we started getting close, did anything else happen with anyone else? And that's a big difference.
Yes.
Something did, nothing did. And since something happened, I cleared up all the loose ends. Okay. All right.
That's a very good point that you're making. Watch out for the breakup that is actually just a cover up.
Yeah, that's a good one. Very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a t-shirt right there. The breakup that's actually a cover up. And you're right. The timeline is it has a significant importance because I mean, if you take a look at the example the real life experience that I brought as an example, like there's a very big difference to, yeah, I dated this guy a year ago and didn't work out to no, up until you got here, I was being, manipulated and emotionally abused. And, she had a lot of psychological and emotional damage from that relationship, like a lot of put downs, a lot of guilt tripping, a lot of like, making her feel that she wasn't good enough. And guess who had to deal with all of those unresolved emotional issues, right? Me, the new husband that didn't even know that it existed.
Yep.
And she had several artifacts in the house that she got from him as a gift, all of like he was everywhere in the house and it was really disturbing. And timeline is very important because I mean, she hadn't dealt with it in any way and now it became my problem.
Well, that's the drama triangle,
Yep.
victim, perpetrator, and savior. Though, of course, when we re-examine it, well, who's the real victim? The savior's the real victim. The
Yeah.
victim's actually the perpetrator, and the other person's just a stooge.
Yeah. And I didn't even
Or
know that I was saving her from it because
you didn't know there was an issue.
I didn't know that he was still contacting her because,
And
we didn't spend, because in the Jewish way of dating, like we don't, like we have a 2 hour date and then I don't see what she does for the other 20 hours of the day. And
yeah,
he was harassing her.
and the other thing is we don't know what the people are telling the other person. For all we know, he's telling her, or she's telling him that this guy is coming over and he's a bit of a nuisance and she actually needs emotional support from him. We don't know what's being said.
Hmm.
That's another disturbing thing. When someone else starts getting involved, we don't know the narrative they spin. Sometimes the narrative is, when I met you, this other guy was lingering around, but I was trying to get rid of him and he was a nuisance. But maybe that's the excuse that's always being used every time they meet someone new. Oh, this other person is lingering around. The other person's hearing, it goes from let's plan a family to 2 weeks later not answering phone calls.
Exactly. It's a pattern. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you on that. 100%.